Hi and welcome to the sew along for the Grace top. The fabric I'm sewing in today is a textured chiffon, a polyester chiffon. This top can be sewn in a multitude of summer lightweight fabrics, so you could choose cottons, rayons, linen even, just really what you prefer, but just make sure it's light to medium summer weight fabrics. So in addition to your fabric, you are going to need some binding for the neckline. Now you can use pre-purchase binding. I've just cut some binding out of my fabric and I'll show you how we're going to put that on in a moment. So you are also going to need some tailor's chalk and a way of marking your drill holes. So with this pattern, make sure you mark all the markings before you begin, and we'll talk that through as we go. So let's just start with the ties. We have 4 tie pieces, so what we need to do is place them right sides together. The seam allowance for the ties, because it's what is called a bag out, is 6mm, which is 1/4 inch. If you wanted to make it larger than that, it's certainly fine, it's just whatever is easiest for you. And all we're going to do is start at the short edge. Now we're sewing around 2 sides and we're leaving this short edge open so we can turn through there. So when we get to the end here, I'm going to stop 6mm, 1/4 inch before the end with the needle down in my work. I'm going to lift, turn and pivot this, and then just rearrange this all the way back to the same position on the other side. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is turn this through so we have wrong sides together, and then I'm going to go to my iron and give that a press. Just make sure it sits nice and flat, and we want the point to be fully pushed out. And when you've completed that one, go ahead and repeat that again for the other tie. Okay, so once you have those pressed, put them away somewhere safe, and we're going to work on the shoulders. So go ahead and take your front and back. Take your front, place it right side up, take your back, place it right side down. So we have right sides together and match the shoulder seams. So what I have is my neckline at this side. So when you're ready, we're going to sew just one of the shoulders together at 1 centimetre, 3/8 of an inch. Okay, now I'm going to my overlocker, my serger, and I'm just going to tidy up that raw edge. I'm just using a 3-thread overlocker, my left needle and my 2 lower loopers. I won't worry about showing you that, but I'll be right back. Right, so when you have that edge all serged and tidied up, we're going to go and press the seam towards the back with our iron, and the back neck is the higher seam, it is shorter as well. And then we're going to start work on binding our neckline. I'm using a binding foot to attach the binding to my neckline. You can just use regular bias binding tape and attach that the way that you know, that's completely fine too. So with my binding foot, what I'm going to do is, wrong side of the fabric facing me, I'm just going to feed this through. And I'm now going to just bind my neckline. If you're happy leaving the bound edge for the neckline, you can just leave it like that. If you'd like to complete an internal bind, all we're going to do is turn that binding again to the inside and then stitch very close to the edge of the binding. So I'm going to do this from the right side. You could do it from the wrong side if you prefer. Alright, so fold that again so that we have right sides together, and we are going to sew the shoulder seam here. So you can choose to cut off the extra binding now or later. I'm just going to let my overlocker do that shortly and sew that seam at 1 centimetre, 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to go to my overlocker and serge that raw edge tidy. So this is what the shoulder's going to look like. What you need to do now is push that seam towards the back and then come to the right side of the garment, tuck that overlocking thread into the seam allowance, and we're just going to stitch on top of the existing stitching line, and this is the back, so we're just forcing that seam towards the back. And now go to your iron and press that seam towards the back. Now it's time for the side seams and underarms. So place your garment right sides together and match the side seam and the underarm. Okay, so this is my hem here, I'm going to sew from the hemline in a 1 centimetre, 3/8 of an inch seam all the way through to the armhole opening on the sleeve. And then repeat on the other side. Okay, so go to your, something's happened with my tension there. I'll redo that, but go to your overlocker and tidy up that raw edge on both sides, and then we'll come back. So when that is tidied, what we're going to do now is turn this garment so it's right side out, wrong sides are together. And we want to arrange it so the front's at the front and the back is at the back. What we're going to do now is to top stitch the layers together. So we need to find our drill holes. So the drill holes we're looking for is the one closest to the underarm here. What we want to do is we want to, the easiest way to do it is put a pin through the drill hole on the top layer, and then it should, if you've marked it properly, match exactly through to the underlayer. And I'm just going to have to take this away to do mine. If you need to mark this on afterwards, that's fine too. Okay, so this is the position here. You might find it easier if you press that, you might not, it's up to you. So what you will find, if you've done that seam correctly, is this drill hole here is in a direct line, and it should be in a direct straight line with the side seam we've just sewn. So if you've done it properly, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so now we need to stitch through these two layers. So find the drill hole and come to 1 centimetre, 3/8 of an inch above it. So we want to start above it, we want to stitch directly through it, and imagine a straight line towards that side seam, and that's where we're going to stop. So do a couple of back tack stitches and stitch straight down towards the side seam. And then just back tack off. Now if you struggle with this, you could always put the pattern straight back on top and just chalk that line in. So make sure you do some quality control work there, and then repeat the same thing on the other side. Now we're working on the hem. So the hem allowance is 1 centimetre, 3/8 of an inch. You can choose to do a serge overlock on the edge, turn up by 1 centimetre, 3/8 of an inch and stitch down. You could do a 5mm double fold, so that's just under 1/4 of an inch folded twice. Entirely up to you, but whatever you decide to do, now's the time to do it. The hem at the back is straight, the front is a curve. I'm going to overlock on the raw edge and stitch at 1 centimetre. And I'm going to start at a side seam. Okay, so go to your iron and give that a press, and we can move on to the ties. So come to the front hem, and we're just going to work on the front layer. So this might be a little bit awkward. What we're going to do is just take the front and make sure we've only got one layer, so the back needs to be well out of the way. And the area we're looking for now is the center, where we put our drill holes and our notches at our hemline for the ties. So the easiest way to do this is, first of all, locate one of the drill holes, and then flip over and just locate the notch that you should be able to see through your overlocking, your serging. Alright, so what we do now is we take one of the ties, doesn't matter which one, and place it so that the flat edge is closest to the center. And we want that bottom edge to be sitting on the hem on the notch area, and the front to be, sorry, how do I describe this? So there needs to be a 1 centimetre, 3/8 of an inch gap from the drill hole to the raw edge here, and also from where the notch is to the raw edge here. So we're going to pin that in place. and then we're going to stitch that down, and when we stitch that down we're only stitching through the front. And it should be a direct straight line up from the hem. And we'll go up and through. Right, so when you've done that, then we're going to fold that tie back on itself and stitch again. Now it's up to you the width you want to do it. I'm going to do mine, it's not quite 1 centimetre, 3/8 of an inch, but it's definitely more than 1/4 of an inch. Just really so we're hiding the raw edge underneath in a nice straight line as well. So that is what we're looking for on the front, and we want to try and hide most of, if not all, of the raw edge there. And now we're going to do the same thing here for the other tie. So when you're finished, you'll have 2 like so, and they're going to create our centre front tie like so. So now it's time for the sleeve hems. There's a 1 inch, 2.5 centimetre hem allowance allowed for. So what I've done here is I've overlock serged the raw edge and pressed that by 1 inch, 2.5 centimetres. You can of course fold this under by 5mm, 1/4 of an inch, and then turn it up by 3/4 of an inch, 2 centimetres if you prefer. Whatever way you want to do it is fine. If you wanted a smaller hem than that, that's fine too. Whatever you do, I suggest you start sewing from the underarm. It just looks a little bit tidier. And I like to sew mine from the right side of my fabric as well. So just go ahead and stitch that into place through the overlocking line just to hide the stitches. And once you've done one side, don't forget to do the other side, and then go ahead and do some quality control work, which basically means tidy up any stray threads and give that a really good press. I hope you enjoy your garment. Hey, thanks for joining me with the sew along videos, and thanks for buying my patterns. If you want to join my Facebook group, go ahead, the link's below. It's Trish Newbery Design Pattern Discussion Group, and you'll be the first to know on latest releases and any sales that are coming up. And if you like what you see, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So I hope to see you again soon.